Hi, guys.
Hello.
What's going on, peoples? We are now live for season 5. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to
Welcome to the Hurricane edition of Battle Bros.
This is the Helene in a Handbasket episode. Wah, wah, wah. Hopefully everybody is surviving the storm. We're going to do this show provided that I still have power all the way through because I'm in the Tampa Bay area and we're getting the wind. The wind's rocking us around right now, so we'll see what happens. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, it's been a little bit of time.
It has been
almost 2 months.
Almost 2 months.
Yeah, here we are. So we're back. Anyway,
Indeed.
Let's get a little caught up on the shit that happened since we've been gone. So the last, well, before we do that, if you haven't done so already, please remember to like, subscribe, and share our page. You can find us on YouTube, InstaTwit, X, yeah, whatever I said. You handle all that shit. But yeah, check it
All
out.
that good stuff.
Yeah, you can watch all of our episodes on YouTube, anywhere that our podcast is found. We're caught up on the Spotify thing, right there, Macho?
Completely caught up on the Spotify. The one thing we haven't been able to solve is the Rumble thing. I'm probably just going to have to end up doing what I do with the Spotify and upload the episodes manually up to Rumble. So,
gotcha. All right, so our last episode was back in August. It is now the end of September. Yeah. So we had some stuff happen over the break. You guys did the Battle Bros thing, you and Tisha, because I was unable to do so because I was occupied.
Battle Buddies.
Yeah, Battle Buddies. Yep. Glad that went well. What else? Oh yeah, I turned 40, and that was crap. Like, all the old jokes apply now. I'm just like,
still look good, my guy.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Just shaving off all this gray hair and stuff. So.
Yes, indeed.
We also had the 23rd anniversary of 9/11 that happened a couple weeks ago.
Sure did. Cannot believe it's been 23 years.
I know,
holy
dude.
shnikes.
Kids are learning about it like it's a historical event. I'm like, no, I was the yeah. So.
I was there. Crap.
Oh, that's the one thing I didn't do. I didn't find any like military articles this week. Oh well. It's all good.
Yeah, it happens.
But yeah, we've been staying busy, making sure things are on the up and up. We kind of did a couple of things here and there. Did some networking, which was pretty cool. Shout out to CC and Keisha for helping us out for the FCCD event that we had in Orlando.
Yes, indeed.
Those ladies are fantastic.
Wish I could have been there. Unfortunately, I couldn't have been there.
Because the people you work for are real sons of... Alright, I'm not going to say anything to get you in trouble. Anyway. But yeah, those ladies were fantastic. Got us some good contacts and stuff, which is good.
One more thing. One more thing I did while we were on break. I am an officiant, so
That's right. You can marry people. That's
give Alamo a call. I'll marry you as your favorite character starting today.
Okay, you just gotta be there for the first one. I'll just be your videographer or whatever, your press guy. You can just show up drunk and looking like Jack Sparrow.
Wise old rum gun.
Do you take this person?
Do you take this lovely lass to be your lawfully, ecumenically speaking, wedded wife? Because if you won't, I will.
That'll go over like a fart shirt. See your little short little ass hopping around a pirate gear. More to come on that later.
Let this be the day that you will proclaim that you were married by Captain Jack Sparrow.
That's so good.
It's gonna be amazing.
So yeah, I'm telling you, man, you got the personality for it.
Yes, sir.
What else? Oh, my brother got married. Speaking of that, yeah, my little brother got married.
Congrats, Jamie.
Yeah, James and his. It's weird to say his wife now. It's like it's always been his fiance. But James and Kayla got married down at the courthouse almost 2 weeks ago on Monday, just doing the kind of the low key thing. They're gonna have a big ceremony when they take their cruise over in next year sometime. I'm not exactly sure when, but it was cool. It was great to be there. It was kind of a little bittersweet, because my dad, my brother couldn't be there, obviously for those reasons. But it was nice because he had a picture of Dad and Ben in his breast pocket of his shirt while he was during the ceremony. So like that was a good touch. So that was cool, man. It was great. It was I was super happy for him. We went back to his place. We had we did a taco bar, which was awesome. I just helped him. She's like, you don't have to help. I'm like, listen, you just got married to my brother. I'm going to help you cook. All right. So you just tell me what, boss me around. You're the, I'll just say anything you tell me. I'll say, yeah, chef. And I'll do it. And it'll be done. And it was great. Like oh my God, it was fantastic. It was so good.
Absolutely great.
It was
absolutely. Damn right.
So that was good. So congrats to my brother, James, and his wife, Kayla. Many years of happiness and bliss. Anyway, yeah. So let's get into the nitty gritty of what we're here for. So last episode that we did for season 4, we talked about the topic. We talked about the topic. That's redundant as shit. We discussed the topic of evil and why that's something you really have to be careful of, and this, that, and the other. So we're gonna try to, for season 5, we're gonna just do more of the same. Maybe add a couple of new things in here and there. We got a couple of shows that we're going to be talking about, historical conversations or topics or whatnot. But most of the stuff is going to be discussion based, individual topics that we go through the day, go through as we go through the season, and then also we're going to be doing hopefully some more VIP segments because those always turn out being like pretty dope. So
we have a couple contacts that we're working on. I actually have to call one. One is
call the other one.
Yeah. One is fairly up there in let's just say,
is that the one that I got for you?
The politics.
That's the one that I got, right?
There's the one you got, and then there's the one I got. During the
I haven't heard about this, so it's like
Stanford. Right. Well, I've sent you the picture of the card. His
yeah, that's right. You did. His let's not tease it too much.
Yeah. But I gotta give it a ring.
I got a guy. Indeed. So
we've got a gay.
We start working those contacts again. So it's showtime again. But hold on. Here we go. Okay.
Hurry up! I'm kidding.
Anyway, so
yeah,
so we're just gonna get back in the seat of things, and we're gonna go from there. So tonight for our first episode of season 5, dude, that's so weird to say. Like 5 seasons already.
5.
This is episode 089 of the Battle Bros podcast. We're gonna be talking about humility. Humility. Very, very important topic. So, what, pray tell, how do you, pray tell, define humility? Well, shit, I'm glad you asked out there, imaginary person in viewer land. We're going to tell you. So, humility as is defined. Man, I can't. You can tell we're out of practice, dude. We gotta stop taking.
As I say,
breaks.
it's a rough show, folks. We're just coming back to this.
Yeah.
And welcome back.
Hey, welcome back. I speak words.
We all speak words.
Exactly. So humility is defined as a modest or low view of one's own importance, and then it also says, as a synonym, humbleness. Okay.
Humility can also be defined as not thinking of yourself as less, but thinking of yourself less.
I feel like you got that out of a book or something. Where'd you get that?
It's a quote that I will say quite often is related to a certain author, but apparently that author never said it, so I don't want to quote who the author was, considering that there's no actual evidence to back it up. But whoever said it, it's a damn good quote.
Ah. My phone is being stupid.
Stop
I put a
playing
new
with your
screen
phone.
projector on this thing, and it was like broken in 3 days. And I'm just like,
Awesome. Just awesome.
whatever. You're dead to me. So humility. Why is that an important topic? And the reason we brought this up is the fact that it kind of pertains not only to military service members, veterans, and whatnot, as a displayed character trait that we see a lot of times. For, I would say, 75 to 80% of people you meet that are first responders, military, there's a certain sense of humility involved. For the other 20 to 25%, there is probably the opposite. Not so much humility. There's a certain sense of cockiness. And in certain situations, that's kind of what you want. You don't want a modest ranger. You don't want a guy, I'm your ranger? Yeah, and it's okay. I'm okay at what I do. Fuck that. You want that guy to be like, yeah, I need a wheelbarrow to carry my freaking balls around because I go do hardcore shit when the country needs me to. And yeah, I don't wear underwear. You know why? Balls don't fit. You want that in a guy who's in special ops.
Indeed.
You don't want a modest guy just going, I'm just
as
guy.
Inspector Clouseau would say, I have one to carry my big brass bows.
There's another character you can do when you marry somebody, Inspector Clouseau. That would be awesome.
Would
yeah.
Do you?
No.
We're
gonna focus.
We're going to
stop. Practice that shit on your own time, dude. We're doing a show here. I will cut you off. You're lucky I changed that box off here. Anyway, we work on your material on your own time, okay? So,
Indeed.
Humility. And it's something that, what kind of made me bring this up was the fact that, like, nowadays you see a lot of younger people that lack this trait when it comes to interpersonal communications.
Oh, God, yeah.
With kids their own age, with adults,
I mean, we see it in adults too, dude. Let's not sugarcoat it.
Yeah, no, but that was I'm going somewhere with this. Hang on. That's what made me pay attention to it, was you see it a lot nowadays in kids and whatnot. And those kids grow up to be adults that don't have any damn humility. And it's just like, go the fuck away. Just pound sand, bafangu, buddy. So, yeah. Did you get that pop up too? You was like,
I did. I was like, what the hell?
Sir! Oh my God! It sounded like JR off of wrestling stuff. But yeah, I mean, and you also get guys that don't have a lot of humility that were in the military too. Like I said, you get those guys that are just like, I've heard somebody refer to them as glory whores, and I was just like, ooh, that kind of fits, like they're just trying to relive the heydays or whatnot. They just weren't, around people that demonstrated good humility. Like, I have one of my old squad leaders is now the battalion command sergeant major for my old unit that I was in the Fort Guard. And I'm like, man, I really got to get him on the show. Like, thinking about it now, but because he's, he went to Iraq when everything first kicked off. I think he went to Djibouti as well. But
get you in the Djibouti.
And this is why we're lucky to put on. And he's over here just going. His face is gonna blow up like a hurricane. Gotta go right for a hurricane. Shut the hell up. Anyway, but yeah, so humility is just one of those things that you would think it comes with age. And my main reason for bringing this up was you have these kids that don't have the humility to learn things the hard way. They want to go straight from I'm starting the process to boom, I'm established. They want to go from being the quote, I'm starting up a YouTube channel. It's been 3 minutes. Why don't I have 100,000 followers watching me play, Switch or Twitch or whatever, playing these games? It's like, and like they're just.
I have the best score in Fortnite. What the hell?
Yeah, I just don't get it, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna age myself. Hey, that's not my generation. This the younger kids.
Yeah, I'm gonna venture to say, like, I think a big part of it just comes down to, there's just it's a lack of accountability as well. And go figure. I think we've spoken about that on one of our episodes. But there's a lack of accountability. I'm not going to say on the person that lacks humility's part, really, because we are often a reflection of
how we're raised,
of our upbringing,
how we're raised, who raises us. Yeah,
right. So
I mean, because if you think about the two of us, I'm sure we had folks in our lives like my grandfather.
Yeah,
I've discussed many, many, many times. He is a product of the Great Depression. He was born.
Yep.
He grew up during the Great Depression. This is a guy who ended up with only a high school diploma, was the president of a bank in Pasco County. He had a produce company. He did a lot of things, and he just strove. He went out and looked to improve himself any way he could. He had a voracious reading. He would always be reading something. He's been through the Dale Carnegie How to Win Friends and Influence People. He read that book several times. He made me read it when I was, graduated high school. He goes, you're an adult for all intents and purposes. You're going to read the book, but we're going to sit down and talk about it, and I'm going to learn you something.
I ended up buying that book for Tish, by the way. Thank you for the recommendation.
Oh, man. It's one of those books, dude, you can it's almost like a living textbook. And what I mean by that is, like, it's good to where you can just go back and rehash over some certain things and just reread it and kind of review over something here and there. And it's awesome.
I would say kind of like the Bible. You learn something new every time you go back to it.
Sure. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. But yeah, and so he was real big on that. So like I used to go up there to my grandparents' house on Saturday morning. Dude, my weekends were just absolute trash because I was just so busy in high school, man. Like Thursday afternoon, band practice right after school, 3 to 5:30. Friday morning, get up all day at school, and then if you had a home game versus an away game, it was a little bit different schedule. But you'd be at the football game from like 7:30 to 10:30. Then you had to go back to school, whether you're just going walking from the football field at Armwood or you're driving across town or something. Downgrade all your stuff, put your equipment away, go home. Like you're not getting home sometimes like 11:30 midnight. And then I get up in the morning. First thing, I would get my dad's truck, fall asleep, driving up to Z Hills, and my mom and my dad would take my grandmother yard sailing. That was like her little guilty vice. They would go out and hit the yard sales in town, and she'd haggle stuff like, "Oh, that's a quarter." Man, that's too much. It's like it's a quarter. I'm like, come on, man. But yeah, so they did that one day, and then Grandpa and I sat down and we talked about Dale Carnegie and whatnot, and it was like you could just tell he was passionate about it, man. He was like super, super, super passionate. But yeah, I mean, for all of that, like everything nowadays, you got to have a college degree. You got to have a college degree. You got to have a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yes and no. I mean, you can argue that point till the cows come home, and you can have whatever.
I would argue if you're going to some kind of tech field, Absolutely, you're going to need some kind of a college degree, unless you're like some, just techie nerd that for whatever reason you grew up with the stuff and you learned how to tinker with code and binary and all that other stuff, and you learned how to freaking do that crap since you were young. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah, and then you also got guys like Mike Rowe who are bringing to light the big disparity of gap in technicians, like guys that are in
yeah,
the trades, electricians, plumbers,
yeah.
pipe fitters, all that's like huge freaking gaps of
Yeah.
what's needed versus a workforce available, and it's
There,
like
there's something to be said for a technical college. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with getting
yeah,
a
and
certificate, man.
there's a great one right here in Tampa. It used to be high tech, which was urban Hillsboro Technical Education
Yeah.
Center or whatnot. Now
Technical
it's
colleges, trade schools. Hell yes.
it used to be it's back to being Irwin Technical College. It got kind of brought under the umbrella of HCC, but it's now I think since gone back to it being its own standalone kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
Max went to barber school there. That's where he got his barbacology license or whatever.
Nice.
I was actually a project one time. He brought me in so he could show how to use, because they were talking about using clippers. And so he gave me a high and tight in front of the class. Like I was his homework. And they were like, "So you were in the Army, huh?" And I was like, about me. It's about this. But it was funny. But yeah. So, but I mean, and it was great too, because like you had these, when my grandfather died, like you had these guys walk up and you said, "So you're Jim's grandson?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." I've never met this guy before in my life. He goes, "Well, Jim raised good kids, and I know they raised you right, so I'm gonna shake your hand." And I was like, "Wow, like that's a thing to live up to, man." It's like humility is just, it's crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
and even talking about like military service, I try to have some humility. It's like, yeah, I was in the
Mhm.
Army. I'm the GWAT generation. Yeah, we did what we needed to do.
Never
And
try
just
to overplay what you
no,
did and how you did it. You know
no,
what I mean?
no,
It's
no. There's
yeah.
just no
You
point,
don't.
because
Yeah.
there's so many ways somebody can get caught. Look at that guy, that Don Shipley, I think his name is. He has like the SEAL database where he calls up people and say, "Oh, so you never graduated SEAL training. So how are you claiming that you were a SEAL?"
Yeah.
And you just, all that like stolen valor type stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I've, for the simple sake of, serving in the Guard and stuff, I've had to be a little bit humble at times. There's other times where I'm like, listen, you need to have some humility. Like there's that one time I was driving for Uber.
Hmm.
Kid gets in my car, really cocky young kid. Like he just got out of basic training. He's going up to Fort Drum and all that stuff. And like, I guess Uber had a thing where you could put like a decal on your driver page that, yes, you're a
Yeah.
veteran. It was like a big V or something. He's like, "Oh, you're a vet?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "What'd you do?" I was like, "I was in the Army." He goes, "Oh, no kidding. I just graduated base training." I'm like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Fort Drum." I'm like, 10th Mountain. He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's cool, man." He goes, "Where'd you serve?" I was like, "Oh, I was here in the Guard in Florida. I did 6 years in the Guard." He goes, "That don't count." And I was just like, "Let's hash this out. How about it?" And then, it just got to the point. I was like, "Listen, kid, like you're wet behind the ears. You haven't even been to your first unit yet. I've got more time in an Army shitter than you've got in the service. So like, do us all a favor and just like stop. Just shut the
Yeah.
fuck up." So, and but dude, I remember being that cocky kid as well. But you kind of mellow with age. You kind of season yourself a little
Yeah.
bit. Get some humility. So it's kind of important, when you have people that don't have humility. It's like when I was when I went, our good friend of mine, Danny Alvarez, is running for re-election for state representative, and he had his little campaign kickoff dealy thing at down in Ybor City. So I went down there, and like it's here's a guy who's very much a public servant, tried and true, dyed in the wool, down to the bone. Everything about him, okay, is all
Yeah.
about serving the community and stuff. We interviewed him last season. He was on episode 69, because that's funny enough his district number. He's the 69th representative, the 69th district representative, and for the state of Florida. That was not by accident. We did it on purpose. But he's up there, and he has all these people up there talking about him, and he's just like you can see him kind of like holding his hands and stuff. I was like, Danny, how do you stop yourself from pulling a Ricky Bobby? And he's like, I do just that. I was like, I hold on to myself, and that's my way of keeping my ish together. But I mean, he had farmers and ranchers there. He had firemen there, some public servants and whatnot. Some other people that he works with up at Tallahassee and whatnot. And it was just like it was cool because being very appreciative, being very humble. I was like, that's the kind of guy that more politicians should be like. If they had that,
Yep.
sense of humility and that sense of just honesty, like I never have had any reason to doubt anything that Danny tells me. He's just a smart guy, sincere, just absolutely, very much a Florida boy, patriotic through and through, all that kind of good stuff. And this is not me trying to, jump on his political coattails stuff. I'm just telling you, like, he's just a good, solid dude. If more people had that kind of approach to politics or serving or whatnot, like, it would just be, the world would be a better place. I mean, shit,
Absolutely, man.
They just have this. Go ahead. I'm gonna go. I was gonna say something, but it's gonna go down another road, so forget it.
No, well, I think there's something to be said about how the negative side of pride can kind of interfere with being as humble as you can be, like and I'm gonna go ahead and come out and say this because I don't think it's said enough. As human beings, none of us fundamentally from the ground up, none of us are perfect, man. None of us are freaking perfect. So for anyone to walk around thinking like, oh, my shit don't stink, and oh, I'm this and that, and oh, I've never made a mistake, oh, this blah 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 blah, just shut up. Just shut up. None of us are perfect. This whole perfect the way you are movement is total BS nonsense. And I really truly think, like, the reason things have kind of slipped, I think, out of control the way they have is because I think I've said it before on the show, like we've really, in all honesty, we've kind of slipped down this path of like the religion of self. You know what I'm saying? Like, I lift myself up and I am perfect the way I am. I am this, I am that. I, me, this.
Dude, you're absolutely right, because this is an overall statement. So like, look at all like the stigmas and stereotypes with like dating nowadays. I am so thrilled for like you and Tisha. Like, you guys just celebrated 10 years last year, I believe.
We are 12 years.
12, oh now. Shit, it's been that long.
12 years married, 16 together.
Yeah, like that's an accomplishment nowadays. Like, because everybody like they just want to turn tail and run and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But like, and with my brother getting married and all that stuff, like, I'm like, dude, it's great because there's just a lot of nonsense out there in the dating world. When it on both sides, just people, and I'm just gonna leave that alone. But you have a very valid point. Talking about the religion of self, like there's something that kind of goes along with that whole discussion, and it's the conversation of being confident is good. Being overly confident leads to being prideful. Being too prideful is just being arrogant.
Yes, absolutely.
If younger kids come off as being confident, hey, that's great. I remember being in high school and not in my junior and senior year and still like being awkward to talk in front of people. Like the first like lesson I had on that was like formal education lesson on that was being in ROTC, and first I was like, hey, I need you to teach a class. So I'm teaching a class, and I'm like, seriously? Oh, okay. And it just got easier with that. And you get more confident in doing that.
Just cut you off guard with it. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're teaching a class tomorrow.
Oh, no. That was that morning.
Oh, that morning.
He said that morning. He goes, I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna talk for like 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna stall. You go over, get the Let One manual, get the book out. Go over the.
Now, Matt.
No.
Here's what you're going to do.
We're gonna keep on straight now. Shut up. Stop. We're gonna be here all night. Just stop. We haven't even started talking about the stuff. We're 30 minutes in. Okay, just chill. I know I know you're good at that. because I'll lose my shit. Okay, I'm not going to be able to keep it together.
Now, Mac,
It's me holding on.
don't you
Stop. Jeez. You know who we're talking about. You know who we're talking about. If you know, you know. If you know. Hashtag if you know, you know. But anyway.
If you know, you know.
But yeah, and it's like, you get to the point of being confident, and that's good. But there's that saying, you get old and wise from after years of being young and stupid. There's some credence to that. It's like you gotta fall before you can get up and go, oh, that's how I not do that anymore. You gotta have that humility to understand that there's a process involved with a lot of things you go through. They don't just you don't get hired by a police department and they say, all right, here's your badge, here's your gun, there's a car, go save the world. No, you have to start off. You go through like your cadet training. You go through your OJT. You go through your FTO, all that kind of stuff. And it's just so naive of people to think, oh, I'm just going to go through that. And especially again with kids nowadays, and not so much younger military, but like I've seen some of the younger military members like look at these guys that are still in after GWAT. They're probably at least 6s and 7s and 8s and E8s and E9s and officers that are quite a bit up there, and they're just like, you don't really have that much to offer because that's the old time of the military. It's like, did you really just fucking say that out loud, dude? Like, just do push-ups until I say when, and I'll be back in a week. I'm going on leave.
That's what I mean. Is like, when I say like religion of self, it's like lift myself up in order to seem higher than others. Like it's like when I say that, like it's basically like people are bowing and worshiping at the feet of what they think they are and what they think they can be.
I believe the good book says false deities,
idols.
False idols. I knew it was one of those
yes.
words. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were on the right track though. I applaud you. I applaud you for that. But and and trying to and I'm trying to secularize it because I'm trying to because because religion of self, it's really from a spiritual standpoint, it has no it has no real basis in what people would really classify as a religion itself. But I call it the religion of self because that's where people are now, and because they have this need to want to be seen, this need to want to be validated, all these different things,
instant gratification,
and the instant gratification. It has become it has become like let me lift myself up. Oh, well, this didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it should have happened. So, hey, this is what I deserve. So screw you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I really do think that that's the major thing that has really affected young people's minds. And I think it really starts with a portion of the education system in colleges where it teaches people.
You're getting into a whole nother conversation there, buddy.
Oh, I know, but the thing is though, like this whole thing of like it's been institutionalized, and you could look up different studies, you could look up different articles, and you can find evidence of these things. And it's sad,
disturbing.
It's downright disturbing. Scary. It is. It bothers me to a very large degree because it makes me think, how far have we fallen where we have not been able to teach people that there's nothing wrong with falling down and getting back up, right? There's nothing wrong with falling down and getting back up. You don't have to bring people down to your level in order to lift yourself up. You can do that through coaching together, and you can do that through growing together by leading in a way that allows you to fail, and you know, it allows you to fail and not feel like you're a failure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Because I
mean,
feel,
taking the negativity and the stigma away from failure, like it's
yeah,
okay. That's how you learn. That's how you sit there and go,
right.
okay. Just like
Now
when I was
nowadays you get
working,
participation trophies, and it's like you're, and it's
yeah, yeah, I got
you're
you.
not
Now
teaching anybody anything by doing that. You know what I mean?
you're handicapping them. Let's
Yeah.
get to the articles, man. So
Sure.
we found a couple of articles that we want to read real quick. Um, they're all in humility. Obviously, it's the topic we're discussing. In case you're just
Indeed.
tuning in, but this one is from BetterUp.com. This was published by Deanna DeBarra, 29 March of 2022. So let's get right into it. When you think about great leadership, what traits come to mind? Chances are you're thinking of a strong, confident leader with a host of admirable qualities like intelligence, charisma, innovativeness, and a willingness to put in the hard work necessary to get things done. But there's another leadership trait that many successful leaders have in common, and that's the humility in leadership. Now, if you're thinking humility, really? We get it. Humility isn't the most common trait associated with well-known business leaders. Let's be honest, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who would call Stephen Jobs humble. But the fact that humility and effective leadership aren't always commonly associated doesn't mean they're not deeply linked. Humble people have a host of qualities that actually make them better, more effective leaders, like a willingness to admit and embrace their weaknesses and ask for help when they need it. Plus, the work environment and the business environment are also changing a lot. Employees have different expectations of their leaders today, and what it takes to profitably deliver value to customers changes constantly. A leader who has all the answers and always has to be right isn't going to cut it. To be an effective leader today, a leader has to be to be effective today, a leader has to be skilled at including and drawing out contributions from many sources. They have to be always curious and learning. Learning requires humility. So if you want to be better for your people, lean into humility as a leader. But leaning into humility won't just make you a good leader. Humility has other benefits too, like better listening skills and higher levels of compassion. When you embrace humility in leadership, in the process, I'm sorry, ugh, my eyeballs are getting a little stupid. When you embrace humility in leadership in the process of becoming a better leader, you might just become a better person. That's a win-win-win for everyone. So, what exactly is humility in leadership? Why is humility in leaders important? And how can you lean into this trait of humility and become a better leader in the process? The American Psychological Association defines humility as characterized by a low focus on the self, an accurate, not an over or underestimated sense of one's accomplishment and worth, and an acknowledgement of one's limitations, imperfections, mistakes, gaps in knowledge, and so on. I think we just mentioned that, did we not, my dude? I think we
I think we did.
literally just mentioned that. As a leader, this can be hugely helpful. Don't assume that you always have the answer or know the best way forward. You know this can have a negative impact on your business and team members. Instead, as a humble leader, you can recognize when and where you may need help or outside input. One important thing to note, humility sometimes gets confused with a lack of confidence, but that is simply not true. Humble leaders can be, and typically are, fully confident in their skills and abilities. They know what they do well and what they bring to the table. They just also know their blind spots and where they may fall short and aren't embarrassed or ashamed to admit it. There is no one size fits all approach to humility and leadership, but there are certain qualities that humble leaders tend to have in common, including a desire to learn. Because humble leaders don't overinflate their own abilities, they recognize that there's always more to learn. The student mentality means they're always looking to learn new things, and that culture of learning often trickles down to their teams. The ability to reveal what they don't know. It's the one thing to want to learn and be okay with making mistakes. For leaders, it's equally important to make that visible and model it for their teams. Humble leaders aren't afraid to show vulnerability by saying, "Here are the things I don't know or don't understand. Can you help me?" To be more effective, the humble leader pairs vulnerability with asking good questions that frame the problem and draw out new information. Solid listening skills. Again, humble leaders are aware that there is plenty they don't know. That typically manifests as a willingness to listen to other people and consider their ideas. An effective leader uses different types of listening. A focus on collaboration. Humble leaders recognize their limitations, and they know to overcome those limitations, they'll need to work with other people. Not only does this make them more open to receiving feedback, but it also fosters a collaborative spirit across their teams. This type of collaboration at work can lead to better outcomes. For example, increased innovation, improved team performance, and a more positive working environment. This is even important with hybrid or virtual teams. More authenticity. Humble leaders have a clear understanding of who they are and what they bring to the table in the areas that present growth opportunities. They're not trying to act like they have no flaws or weaknesses. And this allows them to be more authentic in leadership role. When authenticity at work is modeled, great things can happen. I want to stop there for just a second. So that's
Yar.
kind of what I was going back to with like the example of like younger kids nowadays, especially like teenagers, they're
Heck
just
yeah.
on that cusp of being an adult.
Hmm.
They're not there yet. And when I say, that threshold of adulthood for me is like graduating high school. You're 18, in the eyes of the law, you are an adult and all that kind of stuff. Like, and you may have that kind of upbringing where you've done a lot of different things. You may have practical experience with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I remember taking auto tech freshman year of high school, and there were guys that already knew how to work on cars because they've done that. I was hoping to learn something. Man, I learned how to change and rotate tires and like change the oil. Like that was it. Because like the teacher at the time, he was like, "I got guys how to work on cars, whatever. I don't even really got to teach, whatever." So it was kind of crap because I went in
Was
there
it the
saying,
same
"Okay,
teacher I had out of curiosity?
does his name start with a D?"
I think it did. He was an older
Large,
guy, always had a mustache, balding,
older guy,
little heavy set,
balding.
older guy.
Um, was it the African American gentleman?
No, I had a no. I had a white guy.
I don't remember. My guy that I had was kind of like shorter, and he was of some like kind of ethnic background. His last
Yeah.
name started with a G. Um, I do remember Mr. Dobine being there, and he was great because the first time you come to my class, books. You're not doing anything until you learn how to do all the basic stuff, what the stuff is
Yeah.
called, all that kind of stuff. I was like, that's great. I kind of wish I would have had him, but I had this other guy who was just like it was out in the shop, so whatever.
I had a guy that told me the dumbest joke. Like he basically he said like, "Oh yeah, I was working at a mechanic shop, and there's a dog just came in. He started lapping up, this bucket of gasoline that we had drained from a car. It's just lapping it up, lapping it up, lapping it up. And the dog just starts running around the parking lot, running around in circles, running around in circles. Finally, it keels over, and I said, "Oh shit! Well, what's going on with that thing? Did it die?" One of the guys said, "Nah, just ran out of gas." I was it. I was like, did he just seriously make a mechanic's joke? Are you kidding me? Like,
I'm going to continue reading now because that joke
what
was
the hell?
terrible.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. I was just like, what?
A compassionate leadership style. Humble leaders know they're not
Humber?
perfect. I'm trying to recover from getting that dumb joke, inserted into my ear hole there, gay.
I'm just saying, that's what he said.
I know, but that was just, don't ever bring that up again.
Yeah, I know.
Humble leaders know they're not perfect, and because they recognize they're not perfect, they don't expect for their team members to be perfect either. They bring a sense of compassion to their management style and allow space for their teams to learn, grow, and make mistakes. A willingness to admit when they're wrong. Humble leaders just don't create space for their team to make mistakes. They also recognize that they're capable of getting it wrong and have no problem admitting it when they do. I'm going to skip down to where humble leadership key takeaways. This is the longer article, I think, of the ones we picked. So it's just past the picture of the guy sitting at the desk. So humble leadership key takeaways. Humility isn't always the first trait associated with leadership, but it's an extremely important one. Humble leaders have a clear understanding of the strengths and weaknesses. They don't think that they're more or less capable than they actually are. Humility and confidence are not mutually exclusive. Humble leaders can be confident in their strengths and abilities, but they can also recognize gaps, challenges, and growth opportunities. It's not either or. Humility leads to better listening, increased collaboration, and a more compassionate leadership style. It creates more authenticity and a constant drive to learn. These qualities lead to better outcomes, both for the leaders and their teams. And the last one, humble leaders aren't afraid to make mistakes. They know that mistakes lead to growth, and they create space for their teams to do the same. Okay. There's a lot of really good information in this article. It's a long article, unfortunately. So it's like I kind of hit the important stuff there. So the next one, yes.
Article.
So the next two are a little bit shorter, so that'll help a little bit. We're not on here all night. Oh. All right, so this one is from
Chair.
Which one are we doing next? So this one is the field grade leader at the militaryleader.com article. This one was published. This is a guest post by Matt Kopp. It's called Humility and Its Discontents. Humility has taken its place in the pantheon of critical military leadership qualities in recent years. The highest praise of a senior leader often is that they accomplish great goals through their units with a sense of humility. Toxic work environments, operational failures, and personal indiscretions all appear to stem in part from an underlying lack of leader humility. The challenge for military leaders is that humility exists on a continuum, and too much humility can lead to passivity and indecision. Also, attempts to demonstrate humility through statements and acts can give off an aura of disingenuousness. Given the amorphous and contradictory nature of humility in military leadership, the concept may provide little functional utility for officers. The following narrative attempts to give a brief framework of the factors that allow officers to lead in the optimal zone of humility. Army leadership doctrine frames humility as a lack of its antonym, arrogance. More specifically, a leader operating in the operational optimal zone of humility exhibits a willingness to learn, seek and accept advice, and maintain, quote, accurate self-awareness, end quote. While military leadership doctrine effectively synthesizes much of the academic literature on humility. Yeah, I'm thinking about the freaking hurricane again. Academic literature on humidity.
It's all good, bro. I got what you were saying.
Oh my god! Screw you, Helene.
It's a storming outside,
bitch. There remains a tension between these descriptions and the requirement for bold leadership. For example, psychological research indicates an uncomfortable relationship where effective leaders require a baseline of narcissism, tempered by appropriate humility for better organizational outcomes. In sum, humility is more complex than a leader's propensity to engage in public acts of self-deprecation. When considering the modern leader cases in the Savior Generals, the scope of the present challenge becomes evident. Generals Sherman, Ridgway, and Petraeus did not exhibit public signs of excessive humility. They all have reputations, however, as independent, critical thinkers that often strove against conventional thought. Each had detractors in their service, but they drove to understand how best to confront the exigent challenge of warfare through innovation. The generals noted above exhibited a great willingness to learn and to seek advice. Their collective propensity to maintain, quote, acute self-awareness, end quote, however, appears to vary within individuals' careers. Learning. A leader that exists in the optimal zone of humility never stops learning. A study of top general leaders from industry and international organizations finds a causal link between learning, humility, and effective leadership. The lack of a drive to learn can be a form of arrogance in itself. The lack of will to learn indicates a self-perception that a leader already has sufficient knowledge and experience for the full set of challenges before their organization. Leaders that learn foment a healthy decision-making process, avoiding overestimation of their abilities, and increase the likelihood of mission success. General Wilmer, I'm sorry, dude. Like, Jesus. General William Sherman had relatively poor showings in the first Battle of Bull Run and Shiloh. He learned rapidly and became one of the most capable commanders in the Civil War. For example, he learned from his failure to use active defense and reconnaissance on the first day of Shiloh. He also studied his military adversary and their political masters. As General Sherman describes in Volume 4 of his memoirs, he learned through an ongoing study about the tendencies of his adversary and their center of gravity. Famously, he understood the importance of taking Atlanta for the Lincoln re-election. He demurred at those that framed the march to the sea as a great strategic stroke by noting it was a simple movement of troops from one location to another with a series of tasks between the 2 points. Seeking advice. Seeking advice not only allows the leader to gain from the knowledge, judgment, and experience of others, it can also enhance feelings of power in those that give advice. Recent academic studies find individuals that provide advice feel more powerful, even if that advice is not followed. The challenge for leaders in positions of power is the tendency for individuals with feelings of power to discount advice. Excuse me. Studies also find that leaders in positions of relative power can mitigate this impact by increasing levels of cooperation with those that provide advice. Accordingly, the process of empowering staffs and creating essential relationships includes a routine of seeking advice from individuals with expertise the leader does not possess, regardless of positional power. Although the case of General Petraeus remains salient for the nature of his exit from public life, his willingness to seek advice serves to provide a cogent example. General Petraeus attained a level of intellectual development and academic credentials that placed him in a position where he would have been hard-pressed to enter a room with more than a couple of people that matched his counterinsurgency expertise. Still, he strove for the constant collaboration and advice. For example, he gathered a group nicknamed the Petraeus Guys to provide him with counsel in the conduct of wartime operations. His collaboration and willingness to forego a service-centric stamp of Field Manual 3-24 counterinsurgency led to a fruitful exchange of the Marine Corps lessons learned by then Lieutenant General James Mattis. Self-awareness. The ability of a leader to achieve accurate self-awareness nests with learning and the routine act of seeking and taking advice. Research finds that leaders that overestimate their abilities have less productive workers than those that work for leaders that have greater self-awareness. Of course, self-awareness includes more than just checking on an inflated sense of self. Leaders that routinely treat individuals of similar characteristics, such as race, gender, and sexual orientation, lack self-awareness on how that behavior, whether subconscious or not, can impact morale and productivity. Finally, self-aware leaders understand the limits of what they can accomplish through force of will and orders. An example of the role of self-awareness comes from General Matthew Ridgway's leadership of the 8th Army during the Korean War. Ridgway entered command in late 1950 with the war effort in dire straits. After taking a short amount of time to gain an understanding of how his staff and commanders saw the challenge, he understood he could not change the tide of the war through strategy or force of personal will alone. He found that he needed to increase morale and replace tired commanders before his forces would have any chance of success. He led by example by increasing the time he and his commanders spent with frontline forces. General Ridgway remained aware of how his actions and words impacted all echelons of his command, and that his forces in Korea required a different leadership style. The intent of the brief framework above is to help those interested in leadership get beyond their uneasy relationship with the contradictory concept of humility. Leaders approach the optimal zone of humility when they actively pursue learning, seek advice, and strive to gain an accurate self-awareness. While no leader is perfect, a severe deficiency in those three areas will lead to a deficit in humility. The necessary but not sufficient warning remains for leaders. When coupled with leadership attributes and competencies, however, leaders can avoid the danger of too much humility and passivity.
So, couple things I caught there.
Yeah.
And it's something that I have witnessed in workplaces, both in the past and currently. They mentioned pursuing learning, seeking advice, and also striving to get the to have an accurate sense of self-awareness. Now, pursuing learning, you, as a leader, you should not be pushing your tasks off on anyone.
No.
As a leader, you should be wanting to learn your tasks. You should be voracious in how how you should be learning your tasks and wanting to learn your tasks. I think it is one of the most disingenuous and one of the most just unreal things as a leader you could possibly do is trying to get people to do something that you won't do because you just don't have the will or need to want to learn how to do it,
or you think it's beneath you,
or you think it's beneath you. Yeah.
A good example of that a good example of what I just mentioned. Our good friend Brian told me a story about a guy who was they were both Spec 4s, and this other gentleman who I don't want to name got promoted to E5. So they just came out of the field, and when you come out of the field, you got the time back to the armor, you're cleaning weapons and stuff, and he goes, "Hey Ellis, clean my weapon," and it's just like, really? You're gonna play that kind of fucking fucking that stupid fuck game? Like, seriously? So yeah, I can't stand that. Like, and the thing about leadership too, man, like when you're in the presence of a good leader. Like, and it just and they're so humble about it. You're just like, yes, that's exactly what needs to happen. But continue on with what you were saying, dude.
But no, yeah, like it's like in the having the accurate self-awareness, like you have to know you're doing wrong by your people by understanding you're not doing the right thing by not learning what you're supposed to be learning. And if you are lacking in something, nobody's saying that everybody should know everything and that everybody should be, super Joe high freaking whatever, but at least give it your best try. Yeah. Give it your best try to actually try to learn all, if not most of the tasks that you need to that you need to learn.
And then don't be
otherwise.
Don't
Yeah,
be afraid to fail, because then when you fail, you learn from it and you can take responsibility.
exactly. You own it. You know what I mean?
Except, hell yeah. Yeah. Um, there's a point I was going to make after that, and I just freaking lost it. It's like, damn it. So I can go back. Shit, I lost it.
It happens.
Yeah.
I got ADHD. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, right.
It's
Absolutely.
like, oh yeah. By the way,
Uh,
never mind.
no, but it's like, that's kind of why I'm gonna give you a great example of the lack of humility. I know you like the guy. As a fellow Irishman, I can't stand this dude. Conor McGregor, when he was up there, he's like, I just want to say thanks to absolutely no one. And it's just like, you're just like, you smug bastard. Like, just stop. I'm like, most people that get up there, look at, I know this is probably not the best example, but look at the award shows and stuff. You got somebody that wins the best actor or the actress, Oscar, whatever. They have people that they think their agent, their spouse, their kids, and whatnot. They have a team of people. They didn't do it alone.
Don't forget they sometimes thank the Lord. Not all the time, but they do thank the Lord.
They should. So the last article is another military article. This is becoming a leader of character.com. This was from a gentleman by the name, written by a guy named Dave Anderson. This was February 14th of last year. Striving for humility while rising in the Army.
Mr. Anderson.
Few attributes will engender loyalty and respect among those you lead quickly than leading with humility. Guest blogger, Major General retired Doug Chrisman. As a young leader, I felt it was important to come across as competent, capable, and self-confident, always, no matter what. Never let my superiors, peers, or subordinates see me lacking a bias for action. I felt my team expected me to have the answers and that the job was to provide them in a clear, concise, and confident manner. While this approach wasn't completely ineffective or wrong necessarily, I recognize over time that it was incomplete. As I matured as a leader, I realized I needed to tailor my approach to focus less on what I personally brought to the team and more about what I could help the team deliver through my leadership. In short, it was increasingly about how I could lead with humility. The Army describes humility in its simplest form as the absence of arrogance. Competence, confidence, and character are still essential leader attributes, but leaders must also be highly self-aware and recognize their own limitations and strengths, and more importantly, incorporate that awareness and understanding into how they lead every day. There is a desired range of humility for leaders. Too little can be perceived as hubris. Too much can cause leaders to come across as shy, timid, or even weak. Either extreme, either extreme, either. Either extreme erodes the trust the organization is willing to place in the leader. The sweet spot is a range and is measured by how the leader is perceived rather than how the leader thinks they're leading. The sweet spot is where, and it's going to give us a bunch of examples here. The sweet spot is where the leader is perceived to be more concerned about the team's successes than their own. And that's easy because, what is troop leading, not troop leading procedures, but the three things of like mission success, mission, men, myself, something like that. Mission comes first.
Win together, fail together.
Exactly. The leader uses the pronouns we and us more than I and me. The leader isn't afraid to ask for help from the team, peers, or even superiors when necessary. The leader doesn't pretend to have all the answer. The leader freely admits mistakes and forgives honest mistakes from those trying to do what's right for the team. The leader realizes that asking the right questions is more important than having all the answers. The leader doesn't equate the quality of the advice with the rank, title, position of the person offering it. You can learn a hell of a lot from a Spec 4 than a 4-star general. Just saying. The leader is seen to practice inclusive leadership and doesn't play favorites. The leader is willingly coachable themselves when they need to learn about something new or genuinely talked out of something by a peer, mentor, or direct report. And finally, the leader leads with a transformational, long-term developmental view versus merely a transactional, just get her done, one. Being humble is not a sign of weakness, and few attributes can engender loyalty and respect amongst those you lead more quickly than leading with humility. The more senior I became, the more I felt my role wasn't always to tell the team what to do, but more often to bring out the best in the entire team and help guide them towards telling me what is needed to be done, and more importantly, how we might best get after it as a team. I still led with a bias for action, but did so more thoughtfully and constructively than I did when I was younger, and with a deliberate and continuous effort to remain self-aware, approachable, and authentic. And then there is some other stuff down here, but that's not real. So, yeah, I mean, you have... that's what I was going to say. I just remember now. So, one of the things that when you talked earlier about having people that just kind of like don't learn these tasks or they push off on themselves, I would not be surprised at the direct impact between bad, and we're going to say even probably toxic leadership and narcissism. Because those are the kind of guys, like the guy that, pushed it off on somebody, pushed his task off on Brian, like, hey, go clean my rifle. It's like, no, man, that's not fucking cool. Like, you do it your damn self. Especially being an infantry guy. It's like, come on, don't be a jerk. But yeah, narcissism, it's like, I've heard, and you've heard plenty of stories about, there's all these great stories in the Army and in the military in general about guys coming into a unit, they sit there and they got their West Point ring, you got the ring knockers that come in and like that second lieutenant. If you've ever seen that movie, scene in We Were Soldiers, the deleted scene where they're out there shooting skeets and stuff, and they're talking about the new sergeant major of the unit and whatnot. And they said the platoon leader comes out and he's like, I want to see all the medals pinned on your chest. And he's yelling at the platoon sergeant. The platoon sergeant comes out, doesn't have anything pinned on his uniform. So he kind of berates him in front of the whole platoon. He says, you pin every damn medal you got on. You understand me, sergeant? So he comes back out, and the guy's butt-ass naked, just in his boots, 2 medals of honor around his neck. So the lieutenant's like, all this stuff. He goes, that was the new Sergeant Major? He goes, no, that was Sergeant McDoon. That was our new platoon sergeant. And he was scared shitless of Sergeant Major Plumley. Like, yeah, humility. It's like, it's important, man. It's like, especially nowadays, it's like, you just can't not have it. Like, come on. So.
Nah. Lots of plastic.
Ridiculous.
Feel like a BB gun to me.
I think I'll stick with my pistol. Such a great movie. So, have you? Okay. So, one of the side note, going back to what we talked about before. So, one of the things that happened during our break between season 4 and season 5 is the great, iconic actor James Earl Jones passed away, and he's very
rest in peace, sir.
Known for doing the voice of Darth Vader and everything else. But there's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to try to see if we can play it next week for the intro to our show. But there's a movie he did called Gardens of Stone, and it is a Vietnam era movie. And he plays Sergeant Major Nelson. He's the sergeant major in charge of the 3rd Infantry Regiment at Fort Myer. James Caan plays a platoon sergeant named Sergeant Hazard. They have this kid come in named Willow, who is the son of one of their buddies from Korea that they're looking after. And James Earl Jones comes in, and they're doing a barracks inspection. So he's just walking around like, like just absolutely nails a part of Sergeant Major Nelson. So, dude, we'll have to save that clip and play it because it's just so effing funny, dude. Like,
Hell yes.
I don't even want to tell you it because I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen it, but just damn, it's hilarious as shit. But I don't know why I just thought of that. Oh yeah, because all the other stuff. But yeah, That's our talk on humility. Do you have anything you want to add, dude, before we close it out?
Nah, I think I said a lot of what I was
Parents, do
gonna
your
say.
kids a favor, teach them humility. You know,
Yes.
that's so important. Like, it is not an easy undertaking of raising children in this day and age with everything going on in the world. So societal norms and everything else changing and being thrown all up out of whack and all that kind of stuff. Like, take the time, give your kids the education they need to be good, upstanding citizens of
Yeah.
society down the road in the future. Okay, do that favor to them. They will thank you in the long run. They may not say it out loud, but they will thank you by just not being shitheads.
Show enough will.
You heard it here first. All right, folks. So, like we always do, we're going to close this out. Thank you everybody for stopping by and checking out our show again. If you're coming back for the first, if you're coming back to watch us again, thanks for stopping back by. We appreciate it. The repeat viewership from everybody out there, or being listeners, listening to it on one of our social media platforms, or different places you can listen to it or consume the content, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. He's going to talk about that here in a minute, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But if you're new to the show for the first time, hopefully you liked what you heard. There's 4 seasons of episodes before this that you can go and check out on YouTube, on Spotify. You can just look up the Battle Bros podcast. Check us out. We're out there. We've been out there for a minute. So the way that we got started, Alamo and I went to high school together. We've been friends for 20-something years. We ended up working together. And we had a buddy of ours named John who we worked with. John was a funny fucker. Like, he was just one of those dudes, like, he always had your back. He just made work fun. We did some dumb shit that made work fun, but it was just like, man, if he wasn't there, it just wouldn't have been the same kind of thing. We fell out of touch with John, and we found out after Alamo and I had, done something for his wife's channel. We worked an event of hers. We talked about, doing something together, getting back in touch, and kind of just doing what ended up being this podcast. And in the course of that, we found out that our friend John, unfortunately, chose to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution, and he committed suicide. And that is just fucking shitty, because he had 2 kids. He was a good dude. Like, he would honestly give me his shirt off his back. I wish he would have reached out to somebody out there. So I mentioned to Alamo. I said, hey, did you hear about John? He goes, no, man, I got to reach out to him. And I was like, you can't. He's gone. He's no longer with us. And we had talked about doing a podcast. And for me, that was like our catalyst moment. It's like, yeah, I'm in. Let's go kick this pig. Absolutely.
Let's get her doing.
That's how we got started. And this has been starting off with season 5 now. It's crazy to think we've been doing this long. Going on 3 years now. But we were talking about, like, what our legacy was going to be. What
Actually,
our
I
brand,
think probably going on 4. We started in 21.
21. Yeah. So it was like July 4th. So it was like 3 years and change. But we were talking about, like, what we wanted our brand to be, what our legacy was going to be. And the whole idea is just to build up the veteran community, because, not everybody gets the attention that they deserve, that they need in bad times and whatnot.
Especially nowadays.
Especially now the war has kind of faded away from everybody's kind of, attention and whatnot. The war's been over for a while. So, but anyway, so, we were kind of thinking of, like, what kind of, how can we help people? And we came up with the Bros Code. And what the Bros Code is it is, 4 easy things you can remember to help keep yourself in the fight. Keep yourself
4 tenets.
The 4 tenets to help keep yourself, here, to not go down that bad path, and to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. So if you can just remember the letters BROS, you're good. We're big believers in that whole keeping it simple, stupid. So the first tenet is be tenacious. No matter what you do in life, do it to the fullest and utmost of your abilities. Don't go out there and do something just to whatever. Do it to the best. So do it to the highest level that you can, whether it's being a parent, whether it's raising kids, whether it's being working a job, getting an education. If you can go out there and you have the ability to go get a doctorate or something, go do it. Absolutely. Just remember, in the great words of the immortal Ron Swanson, don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing. And that's all I need to say on that. R, refuse to surrender. There's going to be times in life where you get, karma comes up and rears his ugly head and, beats you down, and you get your face knocked in the dirt, and you got to remember to just get up and brush stuff off, and Charlie might continue on with what you're trying to accomplish. Continue mission. Don't let those little things get you down. It shows that you're willing to endure the tough times to get to something amazing, get to the promised land of accomplishment. Oh, obliterate your obstacles. As going along with the previous one, there's going to be times, when things pop up that get in your way. Sometimes you have to, circumvent the road. You got to go off in the woods and, hike through the woods to get back on the main route and whatnot. Sometimes you have to cross a river. Sometimes you have to get dirty and muddy. You got to go through an obstacle course. Sometimes you got to get some C4s in Bangalore and breach some shit. Or just do what this guy did and back an armored vehicle into a door and knock the wall down. And just be like, whatever it takes. Obliterate your obstacles, man. Don't let those get you down. Finally, S, seek out help in a time of need. As we mentioned with John, there isn't anything we can do to bring him back, and that's unfortunate because John was a dude worth knowing. Always had a funny story, a quip, a joke, just would give you literally the shirt off his back. He was a fantastic fucking dude. Anytime I think about him, I'm just like, nice. And I just smile because it's something ridiculous that was just awesome at the time, and it still is to this day. But if you're going through something, man, reach out to somebody. I wish John would have felt comfortable to know that he could have done it with us, or even just have had that thought to just be like, hey, man, I'm not in a good place. Like, I need some help.
Yeah.
Because we would have helped him. I know I've done that for other people. Alamo's done it for people. We've done it for each other. Not necessarily to that, to that extreme nature, but, we've been there for each other, and that's important. Whatever that help looks like, as long as you're getting help, man, that's all that matters. Whether it's
That's right.
calling a friend up in the middle of the night saying, hey, dude, I need to talk about something because it's bugging me and I'm not in a good place. Okay, cool. Let's chat it out. If you go over and have a beer with somebody, great. It could be a friend. It could be a family member. It could be a coworker. As long as, you are comfortable in talking to them and stuff. If you don't have somebody that fills that category or checks that box, there are resources out there. There's a National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can dial 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-TALK, Tango, Alpha, Lima, Kilo. You can also, as of a couple of years ago, you can use the 3-digit prefix 988. Again, that's 988. And you get on there and you hit the option that you need to talk to somebody immediately. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't ever feel like you have to go through this alone, because you're not alone. You're part of something bigger. You're part of the human race. You're part of a family. You're part of a group of people that serve together, that still have each other's back, even though they're no longer in uniform. The biggest thing that we're trying to do is to stop this stigma right here. Okay, on average, 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and that's just not going to work. So we're trying to put a stop to that shit. So if you can help us with that, we'd appreciate it. Just remember that when you watch this show, when you watch our content, sometimes you may feel the need to talk to somebody about it. Just be, hey, man, I watched this show. The one guy, he's got a big-ass head and scares children, but the other dude, he's a good-looking dude. But together, they have a pretty cool message and shit. It's okay to pass this along to somebody else if it gets to who needs to hear it. Sometimes you're not the recipient. Sometimes you're just a messenger, and that's okay. But if you can remember those 4 things, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need, you're going to have a better than not chance of, hanging in there while things are rough, and they're going to get easier. Okay. But that's all I got. And I'm going to pass off to Alamo. He's going to take care of his portion. Then we're going to get the hell out of here and weather the storm. So take it
If you
away.
want, if you want to catch up with us on the social medias, you could do that on multiple platforms. One of those being the Facebook or the Feces book, as I like to call it. You could
Jesus,
do
man.
you could you can do that at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also catch us on Instagram at battlebros__ podcast. You can also find us on X, where you can find us at battlebrospc. And you can actually contact us there via all the instant messengers on those platforms. Don't hesitate to send us questions, ideas for episodes, or just conversations you guys want to talk about. And hell, if you have someone that you feel is kind of in danger of, moving towards a decision that you would hate them to actually make, put that down in the chat too. If you'd like to contact us privately about a situation like that, we do have somewhere where you can do that privately at our Gmail account, which is battlebrospc@gmail.com. That is battlebrospc@gmail.com. Once again, for those of you that are listening to this audio only, just make sure you go ahead and message us so that we can, get in contact with you if you're feeling kind of rough, or if you have someone in your life that is feeling kind of rough. Maybe we can talk to them and, kind of get them to understand that they're more needed here than they are where they think they're needed to be. Which can be a rough talk, but sometimes it just takes just a little bit of a pull back just to get somebody right off that edge. You know what I'm saying? You can find us on multiple platforms as well. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Amazon Music, YouTube, which is what you're watching us here live on, as well as Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and other audio platforms. I believe if you ask Alexa to put on the Battle Bros podcast with Mac and Alamo, it actually might pull up. But I just want to see somebody do it. Maybe send us something on our Facebook saying, "Hey,
that might just be the
Alexa."
new intro to the show.
Yeah,
that could be awesome.
Exactly. You can also find us over on the Rumble. Bear in mind there is some difficulty between the YouTube thing and the Rumble thing. I'm going to get us caught up to speed on the episodes for this season on Rumble. Even if I have to make sure I go in manually and update every episode myself. So those are all the platforms. That's where you can contact us. And other than that, we got nothing else for you.
So once again, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by and giving us a watch and or a listen. This has been
like, share, subscribe.
Thank you. This has been episode 089, entitled Humility of the Battle Bros podcast. We want to thank everybody for their continued support and whatnot. We should hopefully be back sometime next week with a new exciting episode discussion.
Regular time next week, anyway.
Regular time, yes. Friday. We never even mentioned that. So yeah, we're on kind of a weird night tonight. It's Thursday because next week there is a scheduling conflict where we weren't going to be able to do that. So next week it will be Friday. It'll be October 4th for our next episode. It should be episode 090. Don't know what's going to be on yet, but it'll be a good conversation. So thanks again for everybody stopping by.
Well, we have an idea what it's going to be on, but
remember,
it's all good.
Be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need. And if you need help, if you're going down a bad path, just remember 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. Basically, you spell the word talk, or you can dial 988 if you need help from there. Thank you so much for stopping by. This has been the Battle Bros podcast with Mac and Alamo. We will see you next week.
Battle Bros out.